Welcome to this moment. I'm Sara Jansson, Reconnection-Certified Practitioner and International Instructor from Stockholm, Sweden. At the moment, I'm in France, Rambouillet, where I have the opportunity and pleasure to meet up with the founder of Reconnective Healing, Dr. Eric Pearl, and his partner, his co-director and head of Insight and Development, I think it is, Jillian Fleer. And also because I missed them.
Yeah.
It's just not a trip to France. So welcome, Eric and Jillian. So happy to have you.
We're so glad to be here. We have missed her.
Really, Sara.
Missed you.
Yeah. How are you?
Absolutely wonderful. We've been enjoying traveling through bits of Europe, England, and Germany,
Exactly.
and now France.
Just came from meeting with practitioners and the association in Germany, but we've really been looking forward to coming to Rambouillet. Just the gathering of you and other beautiful parts of the team, just to share and be together.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So next year, 2023, at the end of September, beginning of October, we are taking the live program, One Experience, back to Sweden. And we are also planning to have the trainings in Finland, Denmark and Norway. So of course I would like to kind of address the live program and perhaps ask some questions in that area. But my first question, I believe, is who is this work that we do talking to? Really. And the follow-up question might be, along the years, who have you seen, who are the people attending the trainings? So I think they are connected, these questions, but who is this work talking to?
Well, there are different levels of answering that question.
Yeah.
You want to start?
I always want to address both of you because as I always love the dynamic in your different way to answer and find explanations. So I would love both of you to look at the question.
Well, if you're looking at it from the basic, simple, physical appearance of people, it's talking to everyone. It's talking to everyone who has, at one point or another, realized that they want to help, that they want to help facilitate healing for others, for themselves. So you're talking to everyone who, when they were little, wanted to be a doctor or a nurse because that's all that they knew that they could be. And today they may be functioning in those roles in medicine or in massage or in acupuncture, and they may also be school teachers and bus drivers, stay-at-home moms or dads, students in high school or college, and anything that didn't fall into that realm.
I heard this question so differently.
I know, that's why I was waiting for that.
Is this work talking to? And I guess the way I heard it was reconnective healing, or the reconnective healing experience, is the voice of everyone. It is our collective shared being prior to all of these beautiful roles that we play in our everyday life, as Eric's just explained. So in a way, it's a magnificent opportunity to return, I'm going to say, reconnect, remember the essence of who you truly are. And I think in that, everything that you're doing in your everyday life or activities, as a mother, teacher, scientist, doctor, person and personality, is now being informed by oneness, connection. So this isn't just for everyone, it is the expression of everything and everyone. So that's how I heard that question.
Yeah, and that is why it is felt in your heart when you meet this work.
You point here, and I think this becomes a little confusing in that it becomes, it's really not about our physical heart, the organ called the heart. It is felt as consciousness. It is felt as the truth of who we are prior to a physical organ or even a body-mind. And that is where I think this experience is so very unique.
These last few years, we have been more used to get digital. And so why is live training, physical training important? Couldn't you just, learn through e-learning or read a book or something? Why is live training important?
Let's start like this. If there were 6 people interviewing us instead of you, just one, and I would say, okay, now point to the east with your third finger, people would be in different directions and probably trying to figure out the third finger from where and pointing other ways. When you're live, you get to say, here, no, it's more like this direction and this finger. So in other words, live interaction allows the instructor to have more personal interaction with the student, and in that a relationship comes about where we may choose even to let go of the teacher-student separation concept and recognize that we are growing in a consciousness of friendship, because as long as there is uncertainty, which can come about in certain settings, sometimes there's a little bit of the F word, fear of letting go and standing on your own. And in friends, we can all find that, which is ultimately beingness. Healing is not about what you do, and that's a really important thing. The highest levels of healing, it's designed for technique to dissolve. It's about the presence and the beingness that we are, and in presence and in beingness, there's no positioning of who knows more, who knows less, who's the teacher, who's the student. There's no fear and insecurity, there's love and being. And in that, we allow ourselves to receive healing, whether you're in the role of the facilitator or the person who thinks that they are coming for the healing themselves.
Is it also about the possibility that we are able to observe that live moment? We can observe each other and what is actually going on?
I think you're really raising an important idea. And I think to be the observer, especially in a reconnective healing experience dynamic where in this way, people who are attending are really considering in one form or another, facilitating, as we might say, whether it's with friends and family or as a practice. I think that's not as important. But what is the ultimate role of the observer in this approach? And I think we really do need to be very thoughtful about what we mean by this approach. Because the observer in a reconnective healing experience, in essence, is all that is. It isn't the facilitator that ultimately is observing the client or the patient or whatever the relationship might be to the person that's on the table. Our capacity to receive and dissolve, as Eric was mentioning, that idea of separation, the subject and the object. I'm a person and you're a person and I'm observing you as my subject. This completely falls away. Now, are we cognizantly aware of it falling away? No, because in this approach, what is revealed is the observer, the true nature of the observer, that is resting behind the facilitator, if you will, consciousness. So,
that revealing is the healing, in the recognizing, the revealing of who we are, which comes about through observation, not the separation of one is the observer and one is the observed, one is the subject, one is the object, but in that observation is a revealing of what's sort of been obscured, sort of been hidden a little bit. And when it's revealed, that is the healing. And the willingness to reveal it is the doorway, you could say, the portal through which we allow ourselves that healing. I mean, we could say which we allow ourselves to receive the healing, and we are receiving it, but not as if it's something other than who we are, from some place other than where we are, but it's really in receivership of the beingness that we are. So it gets a little, let's just look at it this way. When we talk about being, it's a big picture. We can say that there are 8 billion individual souls running around the planet. You know, tall, short, male, female, old, young, different gender identities and religions and everything else. But there's only one being, just like there are an infinite number of waves in the ocean, yet there is only one ocean. And when we recognize that we are all one, we allow the healings that have been hidden from us to show themselves.
But why in person? Why come in person to participate, which is, I think, the heart, if I will, of your question. It is our nature to gather in an experience together. It is the impulse of oneness, really. And I'm going to say it is the design of consciousness having an experience, as Sara or Caroline or Jillian or Eric, to come together, to be in the recognition, for lack of a better word, of our love, of friendship. So it isn't that we can't enjoy the Zoom gatherings, and there is an important conversation that is happening online through technology, the way that you put it. But I think we would be very sad and in, I think, a place of separation if we just allowed that to be the primary way that we were communicating. So it's very exciting that we're able to gather again in person.
Yeah. I
And
think
so,
my next question falls into that also, because over the years, what has the training been shown to do for those who have taken part in it? I mean, what would you say were the most prominent benefits, so to say, of taking the live trainings?
I think we're pretty much touching on them already. What you might want to, what I might want to say first of all, and this is not necessarily what people may think of, is the love of friendship, the long-term, lifetime relationships that somehow seem to open up and occur during the catalyst, during the Reconnective Healing training programs. Something happens in the resonance, vibratory sharing of that space that you think you're walking into a room with a bunch of strangers and you leave with people who Let's just say your children and grandchildren will become friends with their children and grandchildren. You don't even know what happened or how.
That's so true. Thank you.
And that's where I'm going to suggest this idea of the heart or love itself is also revealed. You don't know each other, many of you. You fall in love with each other and you need nothing from one another, really at the practical level of experience. So it causes that observation, that inquiry again, the self-inquiry. Who's the observer? Who am I? Where does healing reside? What is the nature of this love? And that's a very big revelation normally at the end of a this weekend. So,
because it's not even the nature of this love. It's the nature of love.
If I move to more, how can I say, more wordly level, but I mean, if taking the trainings, do I have to choose to become a practitioner? Do I have to choose to, work with this as a profession?
no. And I think you're really also raising a very important part of how the evolution of the reconnection and this catalyst weekend together. In a way, we used the word training program because it was parlance. It was a word that could be translated across so many languages in so many countries. So, and I think it's very refreshing because when people come, they realize this isn't a training program. This is a gathering of healing.
And a
True
program
healing.
of discovery,
Yes.
recognition.
Yes.
So what, for me, I may step in here for
Yeah,
1 second. Just what came to mind is, it is a gathering of people who inside are looking for healing. Ultimately, everything that we look for, there's only one thing that we look for. It's happiness. We look for other things. I want that house. I want that job. I want this career. I want to learn this new healing technique. I want this, that, and the other. We only want it because we're looking for happiness. And the only reason that we know that we're looking for happiness, peace, love, is because that's the essence of who we are. So we notice when we're not recognizing that. And we think that we're looking. So that draws us together. And in that, as we experience it, we find that the experience of it may have stops and starts, limitations aspect. Every Reconnective Healing session has a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it's an experience of the infinite. So we touch our own infinite, and the joy, that peace, that centeredness, that happiness that I talked about is something that can't really be contained. It is us. And therefore, many people look to want to share that. And for them, one of the ways they like to share it is by becoming practitioners. And for others, it's simply that beingness that they are, which they may share at times with the occasional family member or friend. But the idea of becoming a Reconnective Healing practitioner is for some people, not for others, and whether that speaks to you or not. But still, where is your happiness? When we recognize this love, this joy, this happiness that we have, we tend to want to share it one way or another.
So, this is addressed to you, Eric. This that has been given the name Reconnective Healing. It ended your life some 30 years ago, expressing itself in quite remarkable ways. It really got your and people's attention. What are the most important and foremost characteristics and effects?
That everything that isn't you falls away. And suddenly we become the recognition of who we are in our essence. And that essence is limitless. It is timeless, no time, no space, no distance. So as we move through life, every smile that we share, every interaction with someone on the street whom we don't even know, everyone receives healing or recognizes the healing that they already are. It's not that it brings in anything other than the recognition of the beingness that we are, but we can't walk through life or interact with anyone or anything without them then seeing that as well. So in every interaction becomes a facilitation, in a sense, of healing and beingness without even, in many ways, giving it a moment's thought.
Right. And another thing, I mean, people started to ask you to teach what you were doing. And long story short, because of the high interest from people and different institutions, you ended up traveling the world week in and week out, teaching this work. And I know we could look into the word teaching
And the word
trainings and everything,
Right.
but I mean, just to keep it where it was. And since some year back, you have, or the company Reconnection have partnered with the Reconnective Academy and a group of international instructors. And does this mean that you have stopped teaching or stopped doing trainings?
You know, there was a time when I was traveling and sharing, teaching about reconnective healing as much as really maybe 45 weeks a year.
Yeah.
And then when love in another form entered my life, we sort of brought that in a little bit. And with the teaching and sharing with some of our most beautiful, incredible teachers, I realized that it need not depend on me. The one funny thing about reconnective healing is, you know, really, it's not, I'm going to change the way I'm saying that. It's not one funny thing about reconnective healing. It is a human nature as we view things from a perspective of separation or otherness, is that we tend to, in our mind's eye, in our perspectives, make certain people special. We judge, we compare, which healing is not about that at all. So we say, well, here's this special healer who lives in a cave in a mountaintop in Tibet or in a church in Brazil.
Or LA.
Or, well, whatever the case is, no one person has an ability to facilitate healing better than any other person. They may have reputation. They may have found a centering in themselves that allows that some others may not have. But ultimately, when we let go of the illusion of separation, and as is shared in the Reconnective Healing seminars or training programs around the world, I'm going to use two statements that I've used for 30 years, but they haven't lost their impact with their accuracy. I can pretty much make it two promises. You will be able to facilitate any level of healing that I can, or Jillian can, or our trainers can, and any level of healing that any human being on this planet can do, because you will have simply allowed yourself to recognize that. It's the recognition of who we are that facilitates healing to an infinite and infinite. You can't be more infinite than someone or something else. You can't add to infinite, or it was never infinite. You can't have two infinites, or they were never infinite. And that's what we begin to recognize in the beingness, the love, the essence that we are. And it's that recognition that we have that is shared beyond words and language with people with whom we interact, and therefore healings are recognized by them. And our nature might be, oh, you sent me a healing, you gave me this healing. If it weren't for you, no, it's if it weren't for each of us allowing ourselves to recognize the infinite being that we are, that we're not one of 8 billion souls, as we say, that we are spirit, and spirit is one.
Jillian.
Sara?
Thank you. People are asking, is there scientific evidence that reconnective healing works? And the realness, I don't know if realness is the word, I'm Swedish, but the realness of reconnective healing has been scientifically supported. How important is it with having scientific studies? And in what way is it important?
I think that to really understand the reconnective healing experience, you have to release the nature of understanding. So, yes, for many decades, there have been ways in which we have explored the movement of this sort of unknown knowingness that doesn't live in our capacity to understand it with the thinking mind, and therefore wouldn't really fit well into the materialistic model of science. Howsoever, when you are witnessing remarkable, in this way, body-mind healing and changes, it evokes a desire to understand. That's the nature of the ego.
That's what we do.
That is right. It's called seeking and resisting, or perceiving and conceiving. And so I think the science that has explored what is reconnective healing and how does it work, in a way has come back with, you can't really tell me. And in some ways, I think that's very much elevated where science is headed right at the moment, which is so excellent, because for many, we'll say, healing modalities that have been scientifically studied, there's a lot of backpedaling that's having to happen, because claims of understanding, absolutes, science, facts and figures have been sort of placed upon them that have expired. They're no longer valid. So with the reconnective healing experience, and with energy, light, and information, which is really that is being revealed, I would say we're standing in a perfect moment with where science is heading. Concept one, the idea or the concept of space and time is completely doomed.
According to many prominent researchers, more and more every day.
Absolutely falling away. And even more so, such renowned scientists, Donald Hoffman, one of our favorites, which is Bernardo Castro, and many others, would say, what an opportunity. Let's explore the scientific value of here, now. We've come to the very end of the theory of everything. We are not finding the end of anything. So reconnective healing has always been understood as the glimpse of the infinite, okay? Amidst what we'll call a finite experience, something perceived or conceived through the body mind. And so scientifically, speaking, we are excited to see how scientists and neuroscientists start to key in to the science of here, now. Think how creative that's going to be. Not the memory of your last experience or the future of your next experience or that you were or that you're becoming. This is so limited. So
It's almost as you are
limited.
answering my next question.
Well,
because
wait,
my next
before
okay,
we
yeah,
before we
yeah,
jump into it,
Yeah.
from the beginning, science wasn't really looking to see if
no.
reconnected healing existed.
How?
Science was observing it and spending time and money, investing time and money to figure out how it was doing, which it really couldn't. So are there a lot of studies that demonstrate that it is? Yes. Are there a lot of studies that explore different aspects of how it might be? Absolutely. How important is that? Well, it is only important to the person who thinks it's important. Otherwise, we make science into a new religion. Science can only determine what science's equipment and ability to interpret and understand is at that level of time. If we really look back over time, we know that there are many things today that science said that it had proven years ago that became disproven and then proven again and then shown in another way. Science gives us wonderful insight to that which is. But that which is exists before, during, and after science has proven it. There's a tendency for some people to say, you know, if this or that or the other were true, science would know it already. And of course, what that is really saying is science has discovered everything. And if science has discovered everything, then what's the purpose for science to continue? So in this understanding, I find that the value of science demonstrating, or the word that sometimes it uses, proving everything, the biggest value of it, and it's very important. All of these different ways of science studying things are very important. But I personally, just my personal, find that the highest value of it is that a lot of people allow themselves to remove their own self-imposed blinders and look at something if science says that they have found it. And sometimes I think we're offered the opportunity to recognize what is and then sit back and smile and wait until science is able to find it.
And I think that part of what is revealed, the more curious one becomes about energy, light, and information, the more enthusiastic they become about the freedom. And I would say, somebody asked me the other day, can you just tell me in a sentence, what is this? And really the thing that came to me was, truly, it is the freedom of and from the body-mind experience. It is a releasing, a relaxing of that is held in the illusion of the body-mind. And we get to, we might consider that expansive. Actually, in a way, it's one step closer to where we are and the recognition of that. And so we can start at the conclusion and stay there. We are, in this approach, reside in the simplest, most direct path to healing, which is where, and actually the reality, if you will, of our experience, if we're willing to do that inquiry, if we're willing to explore the truth of our experience, we come to this recognition.
That there's really no path or journey required at all. It's the recognition that all along it's been here, but we have been distracted by taking long, circuitous journeys looking for something, and the search led us to believe that it was somewhere somehow
out there.
and else. And if we allow ourselves to start, as Jillian said, in the direct path, we start at the conclusion, we recognize this, and then in that clarity, we no longer get distracted.
And it makes experience in this localized perspective of thoughts and feelings, behaviors, senses, perceptions. It makes this experience exciting because it doesn't determine ultimately our peace, our truth. You know, it ultimately doesn't define, as Eric said, our happiness. And I will say, people walk away often, whether they continue on to be a practitioner, a facilitator, incorporated into their everyday. Often we do hear, one of the most beautiful things for me in healing is whatever the situation I might be in or have been in, maybe it was my culture. Look at where the world is right now. You know, you have 1 million people out of Ukraine. You know, look at, that's a situation. That is a human experience. Even amidst that, this does not define my relationship to peace, love, beauty. So if something as extreme as that level of separation is now the recognition of a person, this does not disrupt the knowingness of my peace, love, joy, beauty. Who am I, really?
So is it easy to distract when we get locked to the surface of someone regaining the use of an arm or a leg, or they can hear again, or children stopped having seizures, or someone who had been trying for 15, 20 years to get pregnant and suddenly they were able to get pregnant? Is it easy to get lost in that and look at that immediate seeming joy of the
Yes.
situation? It is. And yet, when we recognize the bigger picture, that it's truly all our beingness, our oneness, and that ability has always been there. It's just been hidden. That becomes a gift that is not just of that momentary excitement. It becomes a recognition. I like to view it as a gift, the recognition of it that we then carry with us as us. It's the revealing of us to us, and in the recognition that we are all one, then it's the revealing of everyone to everyone. So our seeing, our receiving is not just our healing, it's the healing of those we love. It's the healing of those we like. It's the healing of the neighbor across the street who just moved in, and it's the healing for the people that we might not, in our personalities, like at all. It's everyone's healing, because as one, there can be no separation.
Revealing of ourself to ourself, really at the center of this approach. And also, well, no, we'll leave that for another question.
No, it's beautiful, because I think you already answered the next question, because my question was, what is the vision and where is this work taking us? So we already went into that. That's beautiful.
It's taking us where we already are, but didn't notice.
It's beautiful.
The window, so, the window covers on the airplane were pulled down. The lifted them up.
Right. So I have a few quick, easy to cover questions. One is, what is your next stop? Because I know that you're heading somewhere, and the other is people who want a closer dialogue or interaction with you. Where do they go? And when is the new book released?
We'll start with that.
Yeah.
Let's start with the third question.
Yeah. So our first collective book together, which is really, in my view, a book that has come into being because of our shared being with everyone and everything, will be out November 1st of 2022 this year.
Called?
Direct Path to Healing, a trinity of energy, light, and information.
Say that again.
The Direct Path to Healing, a trinity of energy, light, and information.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward.
Yeah,
I believe November 1st. It'll be available on Amazon.
Okay.
that's our hope.
So do you remember my other questions? Where are you heading next?
Where are you heading next?
From here, we're actually going to Tuscany.
Help.
Yes.
We have and there will be more of this. You asked sort of what will we be doing. So we'll be in Tuscany, hosting with Global Journeys a 7-day retreat.
October 10th through the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be a gorgeous retreat. I'm very much looking forward to it. Tuscany itself is beautiful, and this isn't a 300-year-old. I don't know what you call it, but individual villa, right? Individual little, they call them castles. I don't know what they are, but whatever they are, with an intimate gathering of a max of 33 people.
So that is also an answer on the question, people who wants to have a closer dialogue or interact with you. That is one way through your retreats. And you also have the online community, right?
Yes, Reconnective Life, which really something that we inspired in 2016 when we created the portal. But there was just so much attention around the live training programs. We just had to kind of be there. And that made it really tricky to sort of bring the Reconnective Life experience and community into a larger conversation. So since COVID, since I would say 2020, we've gently, and primarily in English, focused a bit on gathering, at least every week for a couple of hours, so that this conversation, and because your experience is yours, and yet while we are one, we are each here in a way as the expression of oneness. And it's, I think, very important for us to be exploring these matters, if you will, together. You know,
In
healing,
community.
physical healing, mental, emotional healing, I always think is sort of the consequence of a reconnective healing experience, but it is not the, it is not limited to that consequence. It is really just, in a way, the revealing of what healing actually is. So
We look at it
talk about that.
so dramatically because we see it the most readily, the most easily. It's the most what people who are in their brains are thinking that they want. And there's what we want, what we think that we want, and what we really want. And when we see those healings, we go, oh, I want that, I want that. But that's like looking at the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
And the fact that there is a tip to an iceberg means there's something underneath. Let's look at that. How did that get up there in the first place? Well,
yeah. Well, I think I'm finished.
You're just
you're just beginning, kiddo. Just beginning.
That's true. But for now,
Okay.
we need to find an ending for the interview. But I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to meet you both, and it was so worth it to go to France, of course. And I wish you the best of retreats. I wish I could be there with you. Really, that would be my next. To find a way to follow you on the retreats. So thank you very much, Eric and Jillian.
Thanks.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Always.
Thank
And
you.
maybe we'll be able to see you somewhere with all your 2023 kind
Events.
of events. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.